seeing people that are in cybersecurity.
People transitioning, they may have zero experience or background in IT.
Just completely accelerated past them. So a lot of people realize that if you're in the right place, I can make $100,000 a year in cybersecurity almost in my first 12 months, 200,000 a few years into the career.
Welcome everybody to the Cyber Revolution podcast. Thanks for joining us yet again. I'm Adam Hewitt, the CEO of Cyber Revolution, and today I'm joined by Josh Lyons. Josh is one of our senior career consultants here. He helps people transition careers into cybersecurity. Each and every day he helps our lovely students. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for asking. Wonderful to be here with you.
Great to have you on. I wanted to get you on, Josh, because you and the team speak to so many people each and every week wanting to get into cybersecurity. So you've got a first-hand insight into the market, obviously, and why people want to get into this booming industry now. So we're going to have a chat about some of the main reasons someone could consider a career change into cyber. Before we do that, before we get into everything, as I always do, I want to give our new listeners of the podcast a bit of an overview of who we are, who this podcast is for mainly. That line I said before is essentially who this podcast is for, someone considering a career change into cyber. So Cyber Revolution, we are Australia's only dedicated cybersecurity training and placement institute. We specialise in finding people their first job in cybersecurity. We've been doing this now for a number of years, help hundreds of people transition into cyber. But the reason we started, well, I was about to say recently started this podcast, but we're about 25 episodes in. It started about 8 months ago and it's growing really well, and I think the reason it's being appreciated by the public so much is because cybersecurity is such a mysterious industry. There are some common misconceptions. And so we really just want to educate people on what cybersecurity is and how they can land their first job in this industry. Okay, so if that sounds interesting, that sounds like it could be for you, then keep listening. Josh, let's get into this, hey?
Yeah, let's do it. So we talk to, goodness, hundreds or thousands of people between the weeks and the months. And, we've been doing this for some time now. So you do start to spot the patterns for sure. Why are people going to make that change? Why are they even interested in that change? I think if you were to boil it down to two, it really comes down to having the opportunity to break through a ceiling in their financial earnings. A lot of people know that they've hit a wall. They've been in a career for 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years, 2 decades sometimes. And yeah, maybe they could make a little bit more money, but the growth curve for them to make that money, it's kind of petered out. They've kind of made their way up, or they're into a career, they're 2 years in, and they're looking left, they're looking right, and they're seeing people that are in cybersecurity, and they've just completely accelerated past them. And so a lot of people realize that if you're in the right place at the right time and you show up motivated and eager to learn and to learn the right skill set, sometimes you're in the wrong lane. And so the people that have that awareness that, goodness, I can make $100,000 a year in cybersecurity almost in my first 12 months, 200,000 a few years into the career. So making more money is a big one. Now, money isn't everything, but it definitely makes life a hell of a lot easier. And I'm sure we can all agree, if you could make an extra 50,000 a year or an extra 100,000 a year, a few years into a new career, maybe that's worth time to consider actually switching lanes and getting into something that is booming and growing. I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, yes, as I said, money is everything, but especially with everything that is going on within the world at the moment, everything seems to be going up. It does help, right? I got a really awesome text message from one of our students recently who landed a job. Actually, we'll give him a bit of a congratulations. James Oy, who was on the podcast about, you would remember it from about 3 or so weeks ago. He hadn't been placed just yet, but he was studying really well, getting his certifications. He texted me about a week or so ago saying he'd landed a role. He was a mechanical engineer. And he goes, you know what? I know that money wasn't a major motivation for him, but he said, I've been in the mechanical engineering industry for about 7 or 8 years now, landed my first cyber job, and I'm already earning more money in this current role in cybersecurity than I did in that industry, which is just so good to hear, right? Because it that helps him be able to, with the cost of living crisis that's happening here and across the world. I think it's really, really awesome that he can now be comfortable and provide for his family as well. So that's one important factor, financial aspect. What would you say another one is, Josh?
I'd say definitely the second biggest one, although for some people one moves ahead than the other, is freedom to have more flexibility. You're using the example of someone that's a mechanic. That person, if they never made the decision to change, they're going to be going into a garage every day for the rest of their life until they're 70, 80 years old and decide to retire. Cybersecurity, we have people that even from the get-go, they're able to do a hybrid role. They're able to do a couple of days at home. They're able to do a couple of days in the office, or some people prefer to be in an office, but knowing that in your tool belt, you have a skill that's in the modern era, that is flexible, that is digital, that is online. A lot of people post-COVID realized that the world has changed, and some people are going to get left behind or willingly choose to just stay in a role that maybe isn't as flexible as it could be. But the students that come through this program, they realize that a couple of days at home working around your kids, your significant other, or if you've got that plan for the future, we said money isn't everything. Well, if it isn't money, then definitely being able to be around the people that you care about has got to come above money. And so really it's quite interesting that cybersecurity can cover both of those bases.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the team at Cyber Revolution work remotely.
Yep.
I do like going into the office. I'm one of those people. So I go into the office a few days a week. But for instance, today, recording this podcast from home, I've recently had a kid, and it allows me and my wife, especially my wife, to sometimes spend some time to herself, and for me to be able to look after the little boy. So it's that's really good. So that instant, I guess, increase in salary is great for me. And I've banged on about this a lot within the podcast. You would have heard that the career progression is probably the most exciting aspect for cybersecurity for me. For the ability for somebody to get into an entry-level role, transition to a mid-level role, and then to an advanced level role, roughly in about 5 to 6 years. You're just not going to get that in any other industry. You think about, the legal space or the accounting space, the public service, you're going to have to be there for decades before you get to that advanced level role. And that's where you can really get some financial freedom and earn that, $200,000 to $250,000 a year, depending on which pathway you go down. So that's probably the most exciting thing. Do you get that with some of the people that you speak to? They've hit a bit of a ceiling in their current role?
Definitely. And you touched on something, I'm glad you bring it up, fulfillment. If you're doing a role and you felt like you haven't had any new challenges for the last 2 years or even 5 years, it's very difficult to ask yourself, why are you working to live rather than living to work? If you get up every day and it's the same thing, monotonous, the alarm goes off, like another day, same thing. We've had people that have come through this program, and I remember speaking to them on the initial interview call that we do, and they just say, I'm bored, I'm frustrated, I don't have any motivation, I need a change, I want to do something different. And then they come into this role and they realize, every day is different, every day is a challenge. And like you say, every 6 months you're being pushed to grow as a person, but also as a professional. And a lot of other careers, it's the same thing 10 years down the line as you were doing after your initial training. Whereas, we know this industry is very, very fast moving. So once you're into the industry, you're continuously adapting and growing and evolving as a person and as a professional.
And it feels good to help people, right? You're in a role where you are securing companies, you're securing people's data, sensitive data, and finances, right? And so we get a lot of ex-ADF people that come to us. They've got no tech background or experience. They come from literally the physical battlefield, and they want to get into the digital battlefield now because they still feel like they've got that want and drive to help people. Right?
Correct.
Which is something that they can then transition and do. So I think that's really important. On that note, actually, with some experience or technical background, we've helped people from a wide range of, well, I have to count it, but it would be dozens and dozens and dozens of industries out there. I guess what experience or technical background is required for cybersecurity? You speak to some of our candidates.
Obviously, what we do is somewhat customized to someone's background. So if they come in to an initial call with one of our advisors and they say, hey, I've been working in fast food or like a blue collar job, and they don't have any digital or any technical background, we can definitely help them. That pathway is a little bit different. They've obviously got to do some more foundational training, but it's still very quick if you're motivated. And then we have other people that are in an IT role or more of a digital role. There's some similarities, and that is a slightly more accelerated path. The courses and the training and the certifications are a little bit more advanced. But we tell someone, you do not need any background. That's why we're here, to help you get that technical experience and to help you get that preparation to be job ready. So I guess as simple as saying no experience necessary. So long as you're motivated, so long as you're courageous enough to step out of your comfort zone, we're a training facility that can give you whatever trainings can bridge the gap from where you are now, wherever that starting point is, to the ideal cybersecurity career for you. I mean, anything that you'd add to that?
Yeah, definitely. So the majority of students that we do help, career changes, people transitioning, they may have zero experience or background in IT, but they've always potentially wanted to learn, or they're interested in it. You've got to be interested in it, right, to be able to do the studies and put in the time and the effort. But it is a ground up certification. We call it the fundamental 5 for the basic students, right? Your hardware, software, networking, security, and analytics, right? They're the core foundations. And then people who come to us, as you said, with a little bit of a background in IT, then we just need to layer on their cybersecurity skills as well. And so what we look for, and actually I might hand this over to you to have a chat about, if we don't look for any technical experience, and I know a lot of the time our placement partners, they don't look for technical or cybersecurity experience because it's an entry-level role. Can't have experience if you're getting into the industry for the first time. What qualities in a potential student make them a great fit for us and the cybersecurity industry and our placement partners?
Yeah, so like you said, it's not technical. It's not your technical background. It's not your technical experience. It's really in principle, to be successful in cybersecurity, you need to be able to solve problems. That is essentially what you're doing for a business. That's why you get paid very well. That's why you're in a growing industry. That's why you're in a booming industry, because you can solve advanced problems that have a monumental impact on business owners and businesses, but also the actual Joe public if they are not solved. They are critical to be solved. But just solving the problem isn't enough, because every minute or second or hour that goes by that the problem isn't solved is equally more detrimental than actually whether the problem is solved at all. So the people that we bring aboard and the people that do very well, they not only have the desire and the motivation to be a problem solver, but they're able to decide and they're able to commit and they're able to be responsible for being a problem solver. And so when we sometimes talk to people that say, I want to help people, I want to keep people's data secure, but they're a little bit all over the place with whether they actually want to commit to change and going through the transition, that's when we see a little bit of misalignment, So for us, the quality we look for is, hey, how do you respond when we're interviewing you? Do you know why you want to make this career change? Are you committed? Are you able to actually make a decision? That's really the biggest thing for us is decision-making ability. Because when there's a threat in a business, it's, hey, can you decide what needs to happen to solve this? And can you do it promptly? I'd say that's the biggest thing, that quality. Now, it's somewhat learnable. We can help you be able to resolve problems quicker. That's why we give you training. That's why we give you assistance with getting job ready. But if you are the type of person that procrastinates and hesitates and overthinks a little bit, you might have some challenges. So, for anyone listening, just think about that. Can you commit to solving your own problems in life and actually solving those with promptness, I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I speak to a lot of our placement partners, and we've got as you know, a cohort going through to one of our larger placement partners at the moment. And there are essentially 2 pathways into an entry-level cybersecurity job, right? The technical pathway and the consulting pathway. The trap that a lot of people fall into when they're interviewing and they're asked that question, which one would suit you best? They'll go, either or. Like, as long as I get a job, or I'm not too sure. I'll either go, I'm happy to do the technical or maybe the consulting pathway because of this background that I've got, but I'm just happy with anything. I'm not too sure. Worst answer you can give.
Very, very indecisive.
Extremely indecisive. And I know now that's why some of the placement partners say this and ask this question. They want somebody to go in there and go, no, I'm actually suited towards the consulting pathway because I've worked in, say, retail sales before. I've got great communication skills, great rapport building skills and client management skills. And this is my background and these are the previous experience, successful experience I've had. So go in there with that certainty really, really helps, right? And so I guess that's maybe a little strategy that some of the placement partners use to show.
Absolutely. I think, now you were explaining that very, very well. One way to sum it up is, are you a proactive person? or are you a reactive and a passive person? If someone comes to you and says, hey, what do you want in life? And you're like, well, I don't know, I haven't even thought about it. Do you really think a business is going to entrust you with the data of millions and millions of people and financial data and private data if something were to go wrong? And, you're a team leader and everyone's looking to you and saying, hey, what do we do? And your response is, well, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. They're probably not going to entrust you with their clients' data. Neither are they going to give you a very good salary to be the one responsible for it. So,
yep. And it's okay, initially not to know. We get a lot of, that's why we do this podcast, and that's why we do our group interviews. And that's why you have so many sessions with people each and every time before you help them make the transition into the industry, because we front end it with a lot of education, a lot of clarity around the pathways you're going to get into before you start the program. Whereas I think with traditional education, a lot of people just get into a university degree, or they'll start at TAFE, they'll just start their studies, and then they decide, you know what, now it's time, once I've finished, to start figuring out how I'm going to get a job, which is just...
Yeah, let's touch on that very briefly. Sometimes we have people that come to a call with us, they interview with us, and we say, listen, love the enthusiasm that you have for the career, but based on what you're sharing with me, this might not be the career for you. And so if anybody's listening to this podcast and they turn up to an interview, don't be offended. We're not a university that just wants to educate you, take your money, and then we don't really care whether you get a job. That's one of the biggest differences, is that we have a relationship both with us and, the individual public to get a cyber career if that's what you want. But we also have a very important relationship with our placement partners. And we're not going to jeopardize one of those for the other, because they actually both help each other. So we, from a business point as well as an ethical point, we can't just enroll you because you like to learn how cybersecurity works. We are looking, yes, that's lovely that you find the career very fascinating, but do you actually want a career in the industry? And if someone's answer is, well, I'm not sure, but I'd like to just do some studies, that's not what we do. We place someone into a professional career with our placement partners assisting us to do that. So,
yeah, let me touch on that, because, and the reason is, guys, if the placement partners are going to invest heavily into our students as well for the first 6 months, potentially even sort of 8 months or so, those organizations aren't going to get a return on their investment. They are in training you each and every day. You're shadowing people. You're training with us as well outside of work hours. And then if after 6 months or 8 months, you realize, you know what, actually, yeah, no, this industry isn't for me, I haven't given it much thought, and leave, that is not a good look for the placement partner, and it's really not a good look for us either. Okay, so that's why Josh is mentioning this now. Let's just dig a little bit deeper on that. What are, I guess, are some of the traits that you would look for that actually disqualify someone or prevent them from being successful?
Yeah, it's a very, very important question. I think, because obviously we work with a team of advisors, so it's not just me, and we do compare, some of the conversations we have. If you turn up to the call and you're just exploring alternative career options, like, no disrespect, but this is a wonderful career, but there is going to be a transition period. If you're like, well, I might start my own business, I might do cybersecurity, I might do a digital marketing agency, I might do this, and I might do 500 other different things. We're not here to convince you. We're not going to say, no, don't do any of those. Cybersecurity is the best career for you. We're not going to tell you that. If anything, we're going to say, listen, feel free to come back if you decide that this is definitely the career path you want to go down. But if you're undecided which direction you even want to go, we just wouldn't take someone any further in the interview process. You need to know that you'd like to have a cybersecurity career, and then now you're looking at what are the steps I need to take to get myself in there successfully. That would be one. Second one we see is when people don't really have a motivation. They'd like a cybersecurity career. Their job's kind of going okay. It could be better. It could be worse. And there's no real tangible reason why now's the time for them to make that transition. So they're kind of just putting some feelers out. And this industry moves so quickly and it changes. So when we have an interview call with you, we have our placement partners knocking at our door saying, hey, we need more students that are job ready and that are trained, because for those of you that don't know, Adam, if you just want to run through the statistics of how many jobs there are that aren't being filled.
The major skill shortage Well, the last statistic to come out was around late last year, and it was 51,000 new entry-level roles by 2026. That was released by the government, and those statistics were done before Optus and the Medibank attack, before all of this had happened, right? So they're saying now that should touch around six figures. So over 100,000 people that need to get into the industry, and 2026 isn't all that far away. Okay, so for every 10 roles available, only 3 are currently being filled. So you're right, it is a fast-moving industry. It is speed to competency and speed of getting these people under the desk.
Yeah, for those of you listening, you might be wondering, well, how do we know when we're having a conversation with someone? And I think the easiest way for us to find out from someone, are they really ready? Are they really truly ready? Is a very simple question we ask most people is, well, how long have you actually been considering this transition? And to be honest, if someone gives us an answer that's like, oh, I've been thinking about getting into cybersecurity for 3 years, and they actually haven't done anything, we would say, well, the industry's changed completely since 3 years ago. So if you're going to wait another 3 years to even consider it, then you might be just too much of a procrastinator. And so that's something that we can find out very quickly when we talk to someone. We really like to speak to people that say, hey, I've been in my role. It's not really been what I want for the last year. I've been thinking about a transition for the last 3 months, 6 months. I've decided that, time's the most precious asset we have in life. I don't want to just waste more time, twiddling my thumbs. So that's a disqualifier for us if we see that someone's been thinking about it or talking about it with their friends for 5 years and actually, hasn't done anything.
Yeah. What do you think it is that holds people back from making that decision?
Fear of change, and for a lot of people, the fear of making a change robs them of the opportunity to have a better life. And there's nobody else responsible for that but yourself. If you're so afraid of making a change and getting out of your comfort zone, the unfortunate truth is you'll end up, rolling into the end of your life and looking back with somewhat regret and wishing that you could have a once over and go at it again. But, that isn't life. So I think it's fear of change for a lot of people. And so we can tell when someone's a little bit more courageous and they're a little bit more confident in themselves to just go after their goals and attack their goals with some oomph. And yeah, when someone says, oh, I've been in my career for 10 years and I don't like it and I haven't liked it for a decade, that's a bit of a red flag for us, especially in this industry. If you want to go into still life painting, then yes, you might be able to make decisions that slow. But if you want to get into cybersecurity, you should probably reconsider that. What else? There's probably one or two more.
It's just comfortable. The industry I'm in, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing.
That comfort zone is just the breeding ground for you living a life of mediocrity, unfortunately. Another disqualifying thing for us, sometimes we have people, they come to the call and, they're married and they haven't even really had the conversation with their partner that they're considering a career change, which is very unusual for us because it's a big deal. It's going to be massively beneficial for you and your partner if you make a change in the positive direction. And I'm sure it's probably somewhat negative for your partner if you're in a career that you don't like. So making sure that everybody's on board. And if we get the feeling like, they're kind of going behind the back of their partners and, there's going to be some friction there if they even make the career change, we do say to people, listen, if this is something you're really serious about, we want to have a conversation with you and your partner so that everybody is on board. So yeah, sometimes, we see a husband or even a wife and they come and they're like, oh, I haven't even spoken to my partner about a career change. And that's a red flag for us. We would definitely not want to cause any divorces. So we will make sure that.
Yeah, good luck getting that past the missus, just a sneaky change in careers without.
Exactly. So if anyone's listening, and you're thinking about this, you need to ask yourself, are you're going to sit down at the table and say, listen, I'm not happy where I am in my career and I'm going to do something about it. And 99.9% of the time, your partner is going to be all for it, so long as you're confident and certain that you're going to make it happen. And being able to bring that certainty to your partner is very important. It is, like we said, it's making a change, and people are typically a little bit scared of change. So if you're a husband or if you're a wife and you say to your significant other, oh, I'm not really sure if I should do this, but I'm kind of thinking about a career change, but it might not work out and I'm not sure. you're not going to get much support. But if you go to your partner and you say, listen, you know that I've not really been that happy for the last year in my career, and I'm going to do something about it. I don't know any loving, significant other that would not be right beside you, wanting to do whatever they can to support you through that transition.
Yeah, definitely. No, you've already given some little nuggets of gold here. But I guess for wrapping up, what would be your top 3 tips for somebody thinking about changing careers into cybersecurity?
Top 3 tips. I think to do some research in the opportunities of the industry, spend a week, carve out 2-3 hours and look at how many jobs are available, because there's hundreds of thousands of jobs. Look at the career earnings, which are fantastic for a position like this. We have people starting at 85 to 95,000, even sometimes over 100,000 in their entry level position. And like you said, going up into multiple hundreds of thousands. So do a little bit of research. Second tip would be just do it. Life isn't going to wait for you. And what is the worst that can happen? You end up in a career for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you decide that you want to have another career. What's the problem? You just have another career 5 years later. You're already in a career that you're not, well, if you're listening to this podcast, I think I know something about you, which is that you're not 100% happy where you're at in your current career, unless you accidentally clicked on the Cyber Revolution podcast. So if you are somewhat unhappy about something in your career, how much longer are you going to wait? And just wake up every day and not be doing something about it, so to speak. So as the old Nike saying is, just do it. Third thing is, my third tip is that we are here to help. If you have questions, if you want to speak to one of our team, if you want to really get clear on the pathway, don't think that there isn't people out there that are trying to help you. I've seen many times where Adam himself, despite being the owner of the company, jumps on a call with someone that has a concern here or there. We are here to help. So take advantage of that. If you are pretty certain that you want to make this happen and you want to have a better career, but you've got a couple of questions, don't let those little niggling questions keep you where you're at if where you're at's not where you really want to be. Just reach out to us. We're all here to help.
Yeah. And that's obviously me included. I started doing it as probably about 3 or 4 months ago. Just on a Friday, I just randomly give as many students as possible a call, block out a couple of hours and just touch base and see how they're going. Because that's what I love doing, right? I'm an educator at heart. I've been in this industry for over a decade, and I love it when I'm here talking to new students that have just started their journeys and they've just learned, they've got their first certification. They're like, oh my God, it works. I never thought I'd be able to go and do this, and I've just got the first certificate. And it's just, there's no better better feeling. The other one that, if you listen back, or people that are regular listeners of the podcast, I always ask these questions at the end of the podcast. What are your top 3 tips? Whether it be industry experts, someone within our organization, or, students that we've successfully placed. It's a simple one, but they just say, just do it. Just get in and do it. What is the worst that you've got to lose, right? If you've got all of these things that are pointing you towards this direction and this decision, yeah, it's a simple one, but it's one that I just hear often and I think resonates with a lot of people.
Well, here's the thing. If you're considering a cybersecurity career, how will you know if you don't try? If you don't try, you won't know. This isn't going and training to be a lawyer or an advocate and you have to go to university for 5 years, or to become an architect and you have to do 7 years or 9 years of studying. That's a long time to find that you might get into an architectural career and find, actually, this isn't for me. We get people from no previous experience through 5 industry recognized certifications, direct support from one of our team to get you job ready, and then placed into the industry of a job placement partner in as little as 6 months. So it's 11th of July, 2023 at the time of recording this. By the end of the year, you could have already jumped aboard and be in the industry and, most probably be making more money than you're making now, happier, more fulfilled, and have the flexibility that you'd like. Worst case scenario, it's 6 months later and you've already done something about it. Whereas a lot of people, they complain, they're not happy, and the worst thing is that they're not actually moving the ball forward. So
yeah. And then worst case scenario, you're the cybersecurity expert for all of your friends and family because you've got the skill to be able to secure them.
Yep. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Great, Josh. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to have a chat.
Absolute pleasure.
Really, really enjoyed it. And so for everyone listening, if you got something out of it, please like, comment, subscribe. Let your friends and family know about the podcast. If you want to know a little bit more about our job placement program and how you can get into the industry, head to cyberrevolution.com.au and someone from the team will be in touch. Thanks, guys.